So welcome us all on board to this edition, the twin edition of our last community call, where we learned to use Laravel to build the REST API. So today we'll be looking at the endpoint from this API from another point of view. So I know some people will actually be reacting to what I just said, but we don't care about their reaction. We just want to get the job done. So we'll be starting with Vue. So we'll be calling those endpoints with Vue. So the Laravel endpoint, we'll be calling them and we'll use it to build a full stack application that will be functional. So today we'll learn the rudiment of Vue and we'll get our hands dirty by building something with Vue JS. So our facilitator today is Sheikh Ali Soli. So one of the vibrant Vue engineer we have in our community. So the floor is open for you to give us your intro, your briefings about Vue, and let's get started and work on Vue.js. So once again, I greet everyone on the call and thanks for making this invite a worthwhile one and gracing it. So we can get started. Thank you.
نعم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Just as the facilitator of the program has, as the MC of the program has said, that inshallah ta'ala will be learning Vue today by completing what we've started last week, completing the full stack application we've started last week, which was Laravel. So we'll be combining it with Vue today by learning the rudiment and all the areas that Vue touches. Also, as well, be consuming the APIs that was built last week as well in making a task manager application, inshallah. So I'll be permit me to share my screen so we
Yeah,
can
you can
start.
start. Yeah.
Okay, no problem. Sorry, it's coming up. Can we see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Coming. Yeah. Okay. Good. So just as I've said that before we start consuming the APIs that was built last week, we've got to quickly learn about the introduction and the basics of Vue.js, how it came to existence, then what it's got to have solved for us, moving from ordinary vanilla JS down to using this nice framework. So again, if I'm not mistaken, I should say that this particular course that we'll be treating now, it's meant for people that have basics. It might not be much, but we should have kind of basics with Vue. Sorry, we have kind of basic with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So which should give us opportunity to like understand what we are saying in this course. So with that, we'll be moving forward. That okay, what are we doing today? I think we are learning Vue. So I think we should call the current time we are now as what Vue o'clock. So what is Vue? Vue.js is just as I've said here is a progressive JavaScript framework which is used in building user interfaces, just like we know other sibling framework like Vue as well, that they practically perform the same action and give us our expected results. So just like the example of Svelte, Angular, and maybe React. I intentionally say maybe React because all these React developer, they usually think they are the one that owns the ground, but Alhamdulillah that viewers come as well to come and soon we soon take the floor, inshallah. So if I'm not mistaken, I'm seeing a message. Is it meant for me? Okay, now so we said that what Vue is designed from what from the ground up to be incrementally adoptable. That is, to a large extent, most of companies are adopting Vue because Vue has some nice property and nice features that it came with for it to come and make things better as well. In terms of we soon get to the features. It has this kind of lightweight property. It also make life easier because of the virtual DOM that has been built, or let me say inbuilt with Vue. So it makes life easier. So it make much of emerging companies, that is companies that are startup that are either established company or startups, to also take Vue and build something nice with it. So the Vue, as we are talking about, is a core library that is focused on Vue, on user let me say view layer, or let me say user interfaces. We don't deal with anything related to backend here. Vue is majorly for what front end UI interactions. So also as well, it is easy to quickly pick and integrate in different projects, and it is easy to learn. As in, it is easy to learn. I can boldly say here that I learned Vue within 3 hours, because I could remember then when I started. I think around maybe 2 3 years ago, when I want to start learning Vue, I downloaded a 10 hours crash course, but I didn't finish. I don't even know where the crash course is currently, but I know that I learned around 2.5 hours or 3 hours in that what's it called, in that crash course. And ever since then, I just like keep learning documentation, other things like that, and um development and experience. And it is like move us to where we are today. So let's just move on. So just as I've said in my former presentation, that is Vue, it is very well, it is what lightweight. So it is not that what's it called, around, let me say, 20 KB. You've got Vue application bundled. If you don't have large application, you've got it bundled, and spin it up and start working with it. It is very, very intuitive in terms of it makes life easier for you in your front end. There are properties and feature that Vue came with that is making life easier, as in it is easy. So which leads me to the third advantages and properties of Vue as well, which is it is easy to learn. Just as I've said, it is easy to learn. Then, as I've said, it is usually accepted and adopted and being used among companies. So, such as well, for us to even say, okay, can we even adopt this Vue framework that we are saying, or what are the can we know companies that are using it? So, we might be amazed here that we see Apple that I listed among the companies that uses Vue. Yes, it might not be their core framework that they are using, but it is part of their what frameworks that they are using, because we know these companies they usually build different products out, so they usually like use this framework. So among the framework they use in their front end applications is Vue. So other as well, Grammarly, it is basically Vue. Beyonce, which is used by all these designers. It is basically Vue. GitLab as well. Even when the day I started using GitLab, then when I just like check some of their things at their developer console, I know these people self are using Vue. So basically, GitLab is made with Vue, same as Upwork. So we can see that these giant tech companies, part of giant tech companies are even what they do adopt Vue, and they use it for their application as well. So getting started with Vue, we've learned what is Vue, what people, what companies, or let me say which companies adopt Vue, then what are properties of Vue. So I think at this moment we can quickly start with how can we even like use Vue in our application. Vue can be used in different ways. The two popular ways, or let me say the two major ways, is just what the CDN method and Vue CLI method. I do usually use the what's called Vue CLI method because it is somehow it is to some extent it is easier. And also, if you want to build like a standard application, if you are not integrating it into ordinary vanilla JS application, a standard Vue application is to be made with what Vue CLI. So um, to use Vue CLI, that is for us to quickly spin up a Vue application with a, let me say, Vue create command, we must have some two major things. Sorry, I think it's get off my mind. Initially, you must have a node, which is JavaScript runtime engine. You must have it downloaded and installed in your system for before you can have Vue before you can have it to run on your system. So after downloading what's called Node, after you have Node in your system, then you move on to getting what's called this the command to install it, which is you either use npm or use yarn. So then that is it. So after that, um whenever you get the boot installed, then you have your what Vue create project name. So the command the what you are doing with this Vue CLI is to have this command to be able to use it. So we just do what Vue create CLI. So I will be moving forward now because of time, if I'm not mistaken. So what are the other features of Vue? Vue came with the features of data binding that is in your application. You have some states or data, just like React people they call it state. On Vue we call it what data that you can use to like manipulate things in your front end. It also came with other feature which is what V directives, something like V on, V if, VS, V model. Whenever we get to application, we see how we use those things. Those things are part of the intuitiveness that Vue came with. They make life easier. Then it came with componentization as well, just like we have in React. We can write some HTML, JavaScript, and CSS in particular file, which we call it component, and reuse it. That is what make what we call reusability of code. That is where it comes in. That is one code that we write in a particular file that is what we call components. We can replicate it in different places, which make our life easier and efficient as well. So then Vue came with what we call routing as well. Because sorry, I supposed to even say at the beginning of the call, which is if Vue is SPA, which is called single page application. It is a page that we are seeing that that we'll be manipulating to generate our routes. It's just a page, but with what Vue came in with features and advantage of Vue is that we can have something we call like different pages. Though it's still one page, but Vue came with this thing that you can just change it out, and also we have something we call virtual DOM, which is meant to work with this data binding that we said and make life easier for us. So I'll just quickly show us this, then inshallah we move to our code base to bring something up. So this is just like a structure or how Vue application usually looks like or look like. Okay, I'm still in the call. I just want to check. So like whoever that is coming, that is why I said whoever that is coming from the basics of vanilla JS, whenever it's jump on Vue, it's kind of like easier because it's just what is writing before. That is HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Like now we have our HTML code to be inside our templates here, while our JavaScript code or anything relating to JavaScript that we want to write to be in our script, while our style should be in somewhere. We have something we call what style at the bottom here. We can even replace this anywhere in our page. That is, our page is containing all what we need to build a complete page that we need, or let me say, to start our application. So just as I've said, Vue came in with some things, like let me just like quickly mention them. Like in our script here, the data binding that I said the other time, this like the data we are seeing here, we can put some object format, a data in object format that we can use in our templates to make things. Then also came with some life cycles as well. It's part of what Vue came with. Life cycle in Vue or this React, they usually make things easier for us. For example, maybe we want some action to load or some action to be triggered at page load. There are life cycle for that. Maybe we want an action to run maybe after we like close our application. That's it, after our application has been destroyed. We have a life cycle for that as well. Other things as well, apart from life cycle, is we call it a composition, an option that Vue give us. Those options are usually part of the intuitiveness that Vue came with. For example, those options are what watch. That is, it watches our data whenever our data changes. It runs some action. Part of the option is what computed. Usually close its work is usually is close to what is close to watch. That is, whenever a particular data changes as well, we use it to compute another data to get. We still use it in our whenever we get to part of the application I want to build. Then method is the option that Vue give us to write all our functions, because in other like programming language they call function, they call it method. So any play this is the place that we write our functions. Generally, any function that we need in our code, this is what we write it. There are other options that Vue give us that we cannot like mention in this call. So that is just it. And if I didn't make mistake the other time, I said Vue give us some options, and in Vue 2 we usually call those things what option API. That is, Vue 2 came with what option API. But when you start hearing about Vue 3, you say that it's something relating to what composition API. Inshallah, we are not dealing with that today. We are dealing with the basic Vue 2, because whoever doesn't know Vue 2 might not get Vue 3 completely. So that's why we are starting with it today. So just as I've said, this is just like all our HTML that we write. That I said, this is like the template view. That is the HTML that we write. So it's just what we know before. So this is just the same thing as I've said the other time. So let's just move into code base to start consuming the APIs that we built with Laravel last week. So okay, this last view that is in what's this last page that is in front of me is a router setup that I was saying the other time, in which we can make our components some pages in our code. So we can just like come here and just name our route, and or let me say declare our route. Okay, this component is I want to name it this. This component I want to name it this. I want to name it this. Those are those sugar that Vue came with, rather than vanilla JS that we may not be able to like put our codes together like this and do some intuitive things with it. So with that, inshallah, we move to what's it called? A code editor now, and bring something up. Inshallah, let me quickly show us what we'll be building today. So if I'm not mistaken, wow, I've cleared it up. Okay, no problem. Let me take this out of the view. So inshallah, as we are going to our code base now, permit me to use some styles that it is like pre-built initially in what I've did. Because if we say we should be writing these styles now, it might take time. So just as I've said the other time, whenever I want to start Vue, you don't need to disturb yourself. Sorry, get it installed with this yarn, either yarn or npm, and the command I've showed the other time. You should like put it in your sorry, put it in your what's called in your terminal to get Vue up and running. So I may not be doing that. We can just like whenever we want to like start learning Vue properly, we can do that ourselves. But I've done all those things, so we can just start making use of what is on ground. So this is how the folder structure of Vue usually looks like. So here now we have something we call like node module. We have something we call public. We have something we call what SRC and other things here. Node module are kind of packages that Vue has pre-built for us for it to like make the Vue engine for what we want to use. So if we are not adding any packages there, or if we too want to like bring a new package into our system, into our application, this is where it goes to. So then we have our public folder. Our public folder is where we have our HTML file. Where that HTML file is what Vue is looking towards to. You know, if you can remember, we said Vue is what is one page, or let me say single page application. This is the single page that we are talking about. This is the particular what single page that we are talking about that Vue is now manipulating. We can see here, we see something they call what app. This is where Vue is like injecting all the components that we might be writing in our code. This is where it's injecting it to through the usefulness of what Webpack and other bundlers that we have. Today is not the day we'll be talking about bundlers, but there's something we call what JavaScript bundlers that help us bundle our code. So in our SRC, we have our components, we have our router, we have other things that is here might be, let me say, user defined. It might be maybe what you need. So today, as I was saying, I'll be moving into, let me quickly go to the router file as I said the other time. In our router now, I need my page that will be at the root of my application, which is where we have our slash. So there's a particular component I've prepared for that, which I called what task manager, which is in my Vue here. I will just like I need to like import it, then name it the path I want, which is I want it on a part of what task manager. So here now we can see that let me quickly fire this thing up. I can fire my Vue application up by running what either we are using npm, which is what npm run serve, or if we are using yarn, which makes life easier a bit rather than npm. So we can just what say yarn serve and Vue application we spin up. So I think that one is up already, which is this that I have here, which is what learn Vue. So as I've said, I might be copying some style which quickly make our life easier, and then we can move on to consuming our applications and consuming our endpoints, since we've known all the basics that might be required in our Vue application. So it is running now. Let me see this one. Okay, we have this one on port 8080. As I've said the other time, let me quickly open this in another tab for us to see what we'll be building. So I have localhost 8080. Okay, good. This is like an example of application that we'll be building today, inshallah. So at the start of my application here, I'm kind of like checking my server. Do I have, or checking my database, do I have any to do that is there? So for us to see now, we can quickly add up some task here, which is creating our task. We can delete it, we can edit it, we can modify our task, which make up our CRUD CRUD action. So let's have something like learning. I think I have that. To learning to build full stack application with what Muslim Builder. Then we do what we add our task. We see our task being added to this page now. So we can see the task that we just added now, which is what learning to build full stack. Sorry, with my typo, learning to build full stack application with Muslim leaders. So this particular task as well, we can mark it to be what completed. So we can see that this task has moved to the what to the completed side. Also, we can delete our task as well if we want. We can see that this task has been deleted, which just completely make up our what our CRUD actions. So just as I've said, this is uh this is a full plain application. So let's start putting something up in our application. So as I've said the other time, I said Vue give us the opportunity of what componentization, which means sorry, which means I can come to my component here and quickly make up something we call what header, which we can see here, something like this. So we can quickly make up something called what an header, or let me say a header, then we can use it in our application. So if I said we have what we have a header file, view boilerplate of sorry, there's something called vola, which is used to make some boilerplate for our code. So we can see that we have our templates, our script, and our style being prepared for us. So as I've said, I might quickly run through, go through my other style or something to copy something which we quickly use that will make our work easier. So I might be copying that. Then we see how it is what implemented. Okay. Then also as well, I'm sorry, I may not be writing ordinary CSS or raw CSS. I'll be using Tailwind CSS because it's make life easier. You write all your styles in your HTML and psh, boom, you have your what your page being made up for you in less minutes. So I'm using Tailwind. All of these things that I'm using is I've get them as a package, which I said it will be in a node module, which it is used to bootstrap our application. So as I've said now, let me delete this. I might not be needing them. So, and all this that is causing error here, I might just eliminate it with what here because Vue gave me something ESLint that they thought I'll become a better developer with it, but it's making my life worse. So I'm using it to comment. I'm just commenting the way to because it usually wants you to follow a particular pattern to code, but I'm eliminating that. So just as I've said, I have my component here, header component. I'll come to my task manager here and I will just like import it to use it in this my application. Just as I've said, I will write header with the Vola extension, VS Code extension that I said, it automatically knows that, okay, whenever I write header, it checks for, do I have component like that? Then it sees that, okay, I have component called header in the component folder, then it brings it for me. If I click it, then this is how we generate our component in Vue. You just said what import header, you give it a particular name that you want, then from you give it the where it's coming. Then, as I've said, part of what Vue give us is this componentization. So it is a must for us to name our component. So before we can use it in our application. So that is it. If we move into our application now, which is what we are building, we can see that we have our header being generated for us. For us to know what about when I said something relating to component as in reusability, I've times two this component now. If we go to our code, we can see that this particular thing must have come in twice, if I'm not mistaken. Or sorry, I have 8080, sorry, 8082. Currently, I'm using 8082 here. Okay, it is not. What's happening? Okay, let me. Okay. Sorry. I know what is happening. Sorry, I know what is happening. This particular, we might not be able to see this one now because the style I'm using for this particular header, I'm using absolute, which is meant to be fixed at the top of the page, which is top zero, right zero, left zero. So since we said that, they will just be stacking over each other. So that is why we can't see this particular thing being multiplied. So I'm sorry for that. So, but whenever maybe we import another component, I might show that for us. So since we have our, what's it called? Since we have our header up and running now, we can move on to this, because since this is what we are following, this is what we want to quickly clone and replicate. So after this, our header, we have this thing where we have where we can this input box um where we can input our task. So which we might call add to do, or let me say add task. Let's name it, let's for our code to be readable and reusable, let's also name it what add task task dot what dot view. If I've forgotten before, whenever we are in view, we do tend to, since view, it is it's a JavaScript framework, as I've said in the beginning. So, but in not like React, that React take after JS straight, in which you can name your component.js, but in Vue here, you rather name your component.view. That is what is required as a component in Vue. So after that, since we've named our components as at task, we can move in there, get our boilerplate up as well. Also, I will have to, because of time as well, I might spend much time dealing with JavaScript and not style and HTML, and quickly show us what we want to consume in depthly. So I might have to like come here as well and copy part of style that I have here as well. So you permit me to quickly do that. So as I've said, I think I have to have my this thing handy for it not to make my work messy. So we have our style up and running here, or let me say we have our HTML and our CSS that it has been built up for us to quickly move up to use some things. So though my code might be giving me a particular error, but I might not want to like build that up now. Let's check some things that we are using in our code, or let me quickly explain it to us. So I think I'm still in this meeting. Okay, good. Sorry, I just have to quickly check if my network has not logged me away. But please, can we hear me? Let me even ask that.
Yes, we can.
Yeah, we can hear you. There's any disconnection, so I would try to like reach out to you.
Okay, no problem. So
Yes, loud and clear. Yeah.
okay, no problem. I thought the network of that person is lagging behind. So as I've said the other time here, if we check what has been built up here before, we have our title, we have our input box, then we have a button. So, and also I'm using grid to quickly make that, which is I have a grid of 12 here. We don't need to explain that. This is the title that I was saying. So this is our input box that we can input our thing inside it. Then the input box is made to be required. So in which whenever we don't put something in it, it have to throw error for us before we submit. So also as well, in our second column, we have our button here. So just as I've said, let me quickly expatiate something here. Among the intuitiveness that Vue came with for us is that except from data binding, we have other bindings that happen in our HTML. We can see that these are normal classes. These are normal classes that we know. Vue still gives us the opportunity to add a binded class, that is a class that we can control with our JavaScript. or let me say classes that we can control with our JavaScript. Let's say this is and if we want to add what's it called, any bindings to our HTML tag, we usually use this thing. Normally, we can use this v bind. Let me, that's the actual method. I'm coming. We use what we call what v, sorry, v bind. Then we can do anything we want to do with it. You see, it's because I've it's like two, it's like replicating times two here. That's why we are having this error. Let me delete this for us to see. I'm coming. But Vue has came with other thing as well in terms of you might remove this v bind completely. You might remove you might remove this v bind completely and just put your words, put your what do you call this? What do you call this? Is it colon? Okay, double colon. Yes, double colon. You can just put your double colon and put your class, then write some small JavaScript in which I'm having some ternary operation here. I said if we have our loading to be true, as our loading state to be true, then we should have cursor not allowed. Just CSS. Then also in terms of I'm having a disabled property of my button, which I'm controlling with my loading state as well, in which whenever we have a what's it called, loading to be true, the button should be disabled. So we can see how we can control even our HTML tag with Vue, as in sorry, with some bindings that Vue came with. We can do some intuitiveness with it and control some things. So also as well, let me quickly explain this place. As I've said, I said here, this particular tag that, or let me say this particular HTML that we are seeing here is my loading box. So I'm telling um this particular markup that is here, this loading markup that is here, that it should only show. We can see that we can see v if here. We also have another one. Even let me I will comment this one. We also have another one that says that we usually call what v show. That is, this component should show whenever something is truthy, or let me say whenever we have a truthy value of the state that we are passing it into it. So we can see that we said that what whenever we have, this is what I was saying. Let me input some task here. We can see that we have add task, but whenever we add, let me say len, whenever we our loading state is true, we can see what comes in now. So that is what this thing is particularly standing for. That is, whenever this loading is true, use this, else use this. So we can see how we can even control HTML with what Vue came with. So in which we can, there's one thing we can show, we can hide order. So that is it. So let's quickly run through some JavaScript of a thing here. So in let's quickly name this particular folder. So let's name it something called add task. Okay. So after that, we want to have something relating to what we call the other time, which is what our data. So, and that data, it must be what it must return an object. That is how our HTML can see what we are talking about here. If we are still together, so let me still copy this and paste it here for my code not to be messy. So I'm disabling ESLint. So with that as well, we can see that in our in my code, I have something I called what loading is a state that I'm using in my HTML, or let me say is a data that I'm using in my HTML. Also, let me write that, then I'll come back to something. So I have what loading, which is initially supposed to be what set to what to false. So also as well, we give it comma since our data comes in an object format. So also as well, in our input, if we have an input, we must have something that should collect whatever we are typing in it, which should collect our value. So in which Vue came with what we call as what v model, in which whatever we are typing, it automatically gets it. This v model, whatever we are typing, it automatically gets it. It has two property in it. We call it get, and the getter and the setter. That is what this v model is, what is giving us, which is a two-way binding. It gets it what, and it automatically sets it as well. So it gets whatever we are typing in this input box, and it sets it inside this what we call name. So like the title of our task or the name of our task, we can just like have a state for it here to accept whatever V model want to set for us. So this is where we'll be getting it before we now pass it to what, to the backend. So I think I'm done with whatever data we want to use in our in this our components. So after we have that, we have to make up something as we have to make up our what our method option, just as I've said at the beginning, where we write our function. In this function I want to write now, we must write a function to collect our task and send it to the backend, which is the create endpoints in the backend that has been created for us. So let's call something. Let's make a mock-up of this. So we have something we call method. So after that, let's name our function. This how we this how we name our function in what, in Vue. So let's say add task. Okay. So after that, you put your what, your curly braces. Sorry, you put your parentheses and curly braces. You might also use what we call our arrow function, but most of the time is not widely used. So not to cause issue, let's just go with the pattern that Vue gave us. So you just have something we call add task. Then if you want to have another thing again, you can just give it comma, because all these options, they are like in an object format. Just give it comma and then move on. So just as we said, let me see my time. This is like 5:57. Let me get the styles I've written before, then I explain what each of those things are doing, so not to like waste our time. So I have this particular code here, which is currently saying something, which is currently helping us to get our to do and sending it to database. So we can see in our code here, we have what we call what, this dot to do is equal to what, true. What we are currently doing with this is that whenever we initiate or invoke this particular add task, which I will show us where to invoke it now. Whenever we invoke it, there's a particular step-by-step action for it to run, to perform the action we want it to perform, in which whenever we invoke this particular add task, we want to set our loading state, we want to set it to true. That is what spin up our loader the other time. So where we have, then also before we can access this our data in our method, there's something we call what, we have to add this keyword to any of our data that we have here, which we call if we, any of us that study advanced JavaScript, we call this thing that we called this JavaScript that we called this apply. If I didn't forget, apply, then call and bind as well. That is where it came. That is where it came in. So we want to get this what, these are loading states. So we have to add the keyword of what, this, for we to be able to access this particular. If we write ordinary loading, it doesn't understand what it means. So for us to have access to our data here, we have to add this keyword to it. So it will help us bind our data here and do any action we want to do with it. So we have what, we are setting it to true. Also as well, in our endpoint is expecting two things from us. It's expecting name property and is expecting description. So, but for us not to have a bigger space where we are typing our something, that's why I didn't bring this aspect of what description. I'm just giving it a static input here, which I call data, but I'm collecting the name of the task. So we can see here that we are making our name, we are attaching it to what we call, what's called here, this dot name. This dot name, as I've said the other time, is coming from what our data that we have here. So then our description is just what I said. It is just it's static. So that is what we are passing into our backend. So as I've said here, we have something we call what, Axios here. Axios is what helps me to make HTTP requests. We the Ajax HTTP Ajax request. So in which I might not be writing fetch or so. Axios has came to come and like make things easier. So that's where I'm having Axios here. But if I didn't forget, I have not import my Axios to use it. So I'll be making the import of my what Axios. Uh, import Axios. Okay, from Axios. Sorry, import Axios from. I'm using a particular. I'm setting the base URL that I want to be using. I'm using for our backend. I have its base URL set up in this util folder, which I called what axios.config.js. That is where it's been set. This is the base URL in which whenever I need to, why this base URL is there, that whenever I need to call any endpoint at any time, I just need to call the specific route that I need in that endpoint. While Axios, just as I said, the sugar that Axios brought forward, that it automatically append this base URL to the route that we are calling, and we don't need to be repeating routes every time. So, which I'll be calling this Axios from where I've instantiated in other file over there. So I will just name it okay Axios, then Axios dot config.js. So I've imported my Axios for me to be able to use it here. Then I'm posting to a particular route in our backend that we created last week, which the route is named what task create task. So as I've said, Axios will help me append my base URL to it. So in short, it's like I'm having something like HTTP secret woodland. This is the name that Heroku gave us. So Heroku app.api slash .com/API, then slash create task. So we can then move on with that. So we are passing the payload that is required. What we call payload is the data that this particular endpoint is expecting. So we are passing it as an object. We don't want to be writing same thing inside our function here. That's why we are passing it inside. So we have what this particular thing going to our backend. So here I want to log I might not log the particular response. So I might not log it now, since I know what is coming from there. So I will just have to like save that to the backend, and we move on to the other things that remains. So we can see something here that we call what this toast success. I'm using this toast or all these notification packages. So if we need that as well, it can be gotten from npm or yarn. Or I'm sorry, npm, yes, or yarn, for us to spice something up, for it just to like notify us that okay, this particular action is what successful, or we have error with it. So whenever this particular action is done successfully, we will see that what task was created successfully. So then we don't forget that at the beginning of our of this function, when we want to run, we are setting our loading state to be true. But when we now see that okay, this particular request has been resolved successfully, we want to set our loading state back to false. So we can see that after I have this my success toast, that's when I'm having this my loading state to be false. But we can see something here. This location.reload, I will tell us what it's doing later, inshallah. So I'm setting to false. Also as well, if an error occurred, if the request failed, it doesn't resolve successfully, then we want to set it to false as well. So we have that there. So we don't forget that we must bind this this to our state before we can use it. So if we don't have any error, let's go to our code base to test if we can even send a particular data to the backend. So if I'm not mistaken, let me go to my task manager. I'm yet to import this particular task. This particular task, I'm yet to import it to our page, because this is the page we are showing that I showed us at the beginning of the session. So I'll be importing my add task component. I'll be importing it with that vola. Something is making me to like auto complete it. I'm kind of lazy, so I have to like click it. We have add task component up and running here. So, and it has been automatically imported to our page. So we have add task component being registered into this component object as well. This is where we are informing Vue that want to use this particular component, want to use it in this page. So we can see that our code is separated and clean. Whenever I want to debug, it makes life easier. We are not having thousands of what? We are not having thousands of code in this our single page. So we've like split our code, which makes the code reusable. It makes it readable. It makes more even debugging easier for us, and it makes life easier, efficient, and everything is what quite cool. As in it makes life easier. So let's just like go into our code here. Okay, we said we are having what? A particular error. Okay, task manager. What is it? Okay, at first let me even get this messy something. Let me get it away from this code. Okay, yes, links. Yes, links as well. Yes, Lynn doesn't know that I'm a Nigerian. So yeah, good. Okay, we can see that we can see this thing under this place. So I will have to go into my code here and do some other thing. Let me come here. Because this particular thing is fixed, that is why we are having this particular component hidden under this header. So let me quickly write some style here. So let me say I have adding of adding y of what? Let me say 24. Then I have something called container. Pardon me for doing this. I don't wish taking our time. So we have that, and we want to like centralize our work. We have something like MX auto. Then we have width of what? Half. We want to use half of the width that we have in our screen. Okay. So I'm sure to some extent we should see our components making sense. Good. We see our components this our component is now what is now visible to us on this page. If I'm not mistaken, I have py24. Okay, then I have content. Okay. Sorry, I'm supposed to have half here. Good. We should see it. It should come to half of the page. And from what Vue give us, we have something we call what? Auto reload. Whenever we are making changes in our code, it automatically tells the virtual DOM, among what I said the other time, it automatically tells that virtual DOM that we have a particular change in our code. It automatically reads it and reload the particular screen for us to have a new component that has been added on in our code base or in our markup. So we can see that we have our what add task components up and running. So let's now see if we can if we can send some particular task to our backend. I hope I'm not going out of time. Please, the moderator, how many minutes do I have? Let's try and log out our response for us to know what we are having. We have, am I still in the meeting? Okay, I'm still here. Good. So let me see. I want to log out our response for us to see if it automatically, if it went successfully or not. So I have what response. Okay. Hello, please, can I hear a response? I don't know. I want to know the minutes that is left for me. Though will soon be done, inshallah.
We have less than 15 minutes more.
15 minutes more. Wow. Okay, inshallah, we'll be getting it done very soon. I'm sorry, my computer is not my
It
system
doesn't
is
have to
responding.
be mobile responsive for now, please.
Yeah, I know I'm not doing responsiveness. I just want to show us the what's called our response if the task actually get to the backend or not. So let's say we are adding learn view for us to know if we can successfully create our task or not. Learn view. Thank you. So let's actually try that. If we have our response, Let's actually try that. What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? Okay, it's still pending. Let's check what is happening. I hope, yeah, it's still hope. Why is it taking long time to?
Can you click on the headers?
What's happening? 503, 503, 503, 503. I don't need to set because this is supposed to be. I'm using it. I'm particularly using this thing in this second. Okay, wait. I'm using it in this prepared application. If it's not coming up, I have to go and spin up the local one. Wow. I used it when we started the program. Allah Akbar. Allah Akbar. Allah Akbar. We haven't seen 503 error.
Can you try to?
Sir? I can't hear you, sir.
Said
Okay. Sheikh is here as well. Sheikh, please, we are having 503 error.
Try and let us confirm if the app is still up, and running. So try and load the URL on the browser.
Okay.
That base URL.
Okay. Let me copy that. This one is not running as well. Wow. Okay, let me run. Okay, /task. I think it is task.
That's yes.
I don't think it's protected. So okay. Wow. It's not accessible as well.
503 means the resource is not available. So you guys should check
Available.
your deployment or something. I beg you.
Application error.
Yes.
But we use it at the beginning of the program. Allah
Yes,
Akbar.
I was there too. I saw it.
So I'm checking.
Okay, no problem. You can quickly check. Let me.
You can spin up an instance on your local
Okay.
system. You have it.
Yeah, exactly. Do you have the local instance?
That is, I have it, but in my place of work as well, we are using what's called Laravel. So I have to like pack up the Laravel that is set up on my system. I have to remove it now. Okay. I hope. Okay. Let me.
Can you quickly set it up back? Is it possible?
I want to check. I'm coming. Okay. I don't think so. It will take long time because of I have to do all this Laravel install Composer or Composer install and other things like that. I have to pack these things away. It will take a longer time for me to do this.
Okay, let me just try if I can quickly redeploy.
Okay, yeah, that is nice.
The version that is not working, whose account is that?
You
It
said
was for this.
it was my account.
Okay, can you just run tell the log and see what's wrong with it?
I think you should just continue with the UI of other pages or other components while it tries to resolve
Okay,
the
okay,
backend
okay,
issues.
okay. Barakallahu fikum. Thank you. You're actually right. Um. Okay. Sorry. Uh. Okay. So just as I've been prompted to move on with the other UI that we have, so checking my other code base here. After we have add task, we have our header. We should have a particular component that helps us to like edit our task and what show or let me say display our task that we are getting from our backend. So with that, let me quickly name a component for us to be able to do that. So let me say a component that is what get task. Well, yes, get task. You can name it get task, or let me say display task. Dot view, display task dot view. So we have a boiler plate to be set up here. So let me quickly get my components here, which I called okay, I think is in add task itself. Let me close this thing up while I explain those things I will be using with our API. Okay. So I need to quickly copy this. Permit me while I do that. Okay. Yes. Yes. Okay. For us not to have issue, let me replicate it as we have in the other side. So for us not to start debugging in this session. So since we have something that is working already, so let me just like replicate it here. So I know that I have something like this. Okay. I can just quickly explain what we have here. But if I didn't forget, in our add task component here, we have something that is controlling our submit button, which has to run this what add task. So in Vue, whenever we want to call our action, just like in normal GS now we have what where we have add event listener, then on click. Sorry, then we have our click function. Then in React we have something we call what on click. But here now in Vue, since we want to submit a button and we don't want it to reload our page, that is why we have something called what at submit. This is still a shortcut. The normal method is for us to do what? For us to do our our directive, or let me see our bindings, which we are our V bindings, which supposed to be on what V on. Then after our V on, we add anything we want to add to it. But the shortcut that Vue give us, we don't need to be writing all this VVV binding. We can just do what V at that at stars stand as what V on. Then we append any thing we want to append to it, just like we want to append submit to this thing, we can append it to it. Then we just what give it our task name. Then whenever we submit in that particular form, it automatically knows that okay, I'm supposed to run this add task. So coming back to come and explain the codes that I have here. So while we are still resolving the backend issue for us to like fetch the task that we are submitting, we can see that I have in my code here. Let me like close this. Let me also close this. Let me just like copy what I need completely so I can explain with it. So in my, let me just like copy this completely so we don't waste time. Then I explain what they do one by one. Yeah, in my script here. Okay, good. Okay, cleared. Okay, in our code here, you can see that we have our data, as I've said initially. Please let me control this, my people that are shouting. So we can see in my code here where we have our data and on our page, we have what our to-do list, we have item to edit, we have loading, we have overlay. I will explain that whenever I get to whatever they are doing. So as I've said in the other time, this is my particular code that is helping me to control, or let me say to get my task, and it's supposed to be in what? In our method, as we said. So whenever I want to get my task, I have to set the page to loading state, then I append my the route that I'm going to get my task. So we can have my get request trying to fetch tasks from the route of tasks. So as I've said, I'm waiting for that task. I have to prepare a particular data, or let me say appropriate data type, and store a storage for me to store those tasks coming to that page, coming from the backend. So I have my to-do list being an array. I want to store another tasks to it, or those tasks that is coming from backend. So I can see that I have my data here. This is the data. Then it's got rest.data.data coming from coming from, because this rest.data is coming from my Axios. Why the data actually is coming from is what is being named from the backend. That is where I'm storing my data. So I have my to-do list being the storage for this page. Then I set the page to reloading and other things like that. Then also as well, I have my delete task function here that whenever I click where, okay, let me come to this particular page and show. Okay, let me come here. In this my page here, I have yet to do's dot length greater than 0. I'm using it to programmatically show what I'm having on this page, which I'm saying that if yet to do's dot length is greater than 0, I will show us where I'm having that what yet to do. If yet to do dot length is got what greater than 0, I want to like iterate through my data and show it on this particular page. Then if it is, that is what I said, that Vue is intuitive. We can programmatically change things on our page and do some great things. If not, if this condition is not met, then display what? No task. So whenever we are having our yet to do to be 0, then we have what? No task. Then after that, where do you have this? Where do we even have this yet to do? This yet to do is coming from what? Is coming from our computed property. Our computed property also provide data to our page, but it's usually been in a computed format. It could have done something for us with that data. We can see that this yet data, we control it to be what? It should return part of data that is in this in this to-do list data. It should return some. This is a pure JavaScript. For anybody that knows how JavaScript, we know what we are doing here. I'm just saying that what this yet to do data should come from data that its status is false. That is data that are yet to be marked as that its status is yet to be changed to true. So I'm just filtering those data. I'm setting it inside what my yet to do. That is where my yet to do comes in place. Let me quickly use that opportunity to explain this as well. I'm also like fetching another data again, or let me say computing another data again, which is called what? Completed to-dos. So completed to-dos are to-dos that I'm filtering from the whole to-do that are what completed. That is, I'm getting the completed to-dos that the status is what? True. I'm getting it, I'm filtering it and getting them inside is what? Completed to-dos. So that is where getting those data into my page, because we can see this page is being separated into two places. This is a second place where I'm using this my to-dos, completed to-dos, just like this condition here. So just as let me quickly say this is compulsory. What Vue also gave us as well is that just like we have in React, that we can use a map function to get our data and use them on our page. In Vue as well, we have something we call what? For, which is in our JavaScript, we have our for statement to get an item out of many items. So we can see that we have what? This item. I want to get a specific item out of this my total item and show it on my page. So not to waste our time, when we started program, I show us where we have what? A button that can what? We can delete or edit our to-do. So this is the button that we have in, like these are the function that is controlling those buttons. So we have what? Undo task incomplete, as in then also a button, a function as well, which deletes our task. Both of them, they take the task ID and perform a particular action with it. We can see in our code base here, I have that undo task completed, undo task incomplete, then I think I have delete as well, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, this is delete. They just take the ID and perform a particular action with it. So I think we are able to get that. So the last thing we might be doing is just to like be able to edit our to-do. And that one comes with, let me quickly go back to my code base here, comes with we having a particular modal. We set our task that we want to edit, we set it inside, edit it, then send it to the backend as well with the particular what do we call it, particular ID of that task. So I'll quickly be getting my code here and use it to quickly create a particular component here as well. So let's have something we call edit task dot view. So we have that, then we can quickly populate that on our page here. So I may not be explaining that thoroughly because I have that in my add to do component. We have form, and then we have either cancel button to take the modal away, or we have edit button to help us submit it. So I won't be explaining it again. It's because of what we have already. So just that the function for us to help us edit is that we are getting the name and description of that task that I want to edit. Then we are passing it to the backend. We can see that we are appending this particular ID of our data, of our to-do. We are appending it to that route, then pass the new payload to it, and we edit it with a put request that we learned the last time. So I'll be quickly setting my edit task. I'll be setting it on this page. So which after that we should be rounding up, inshallah. So where I will have to quickly talk about one or two things again. So this is our edit task. Let me quickly put it on this particular page. Let me see, I have edit task. Okay, if we come to my other code here, where I'm having this particular edit task comes with one or two things that I need to explain as a core property of what's called of SPA. Sorry. Okay, I think it's copied. Okay, good. So we can see that we have something that we called what we are just as we know that as usually import this component and use it on this page, but this one is somehow kind of different. We are passing something inside it. This thing that we are passing are called what? Props. In with this thing, I can pass things from this, like these are parent components. This is just like a child component. I can pass the data that I have in this page. I can pass it inside this inside this particular component and go and use it in that particular component. I can pass data, I can pass functions. Those are two major things that we can pass in our what as prop in our component. So we can see we are binding it as well. We are binding data inside. We are binding overlay inside. We are binding close modal inside. If we come to this particular task, we can see where we are extracting our prop. We can see there's a particular option used in Vue called what props. In that, we can see that those data that I'm passing, those three things, my data, my overlay, and my close modal, I'm just extracting them here, and I can use them the same way I'm using my data on this page. So we can know that three ways can be used to get data on our page. Our data, something here, our prop, our data option. Waalaikumsalam.
Oh,
Okay, our props, our data, and our what are computed. Those are the three ways that we can get data in our page and use them. So that is just it. If I didn't make mistake, there was a thing I want to show in this display task here the other time. Okay, let me come to a task manager where we have mounted. After this, I think I will be done, inshallah. We have mounted here this in our task manager page, in which this mounted, we are running a particular function in it. This function, as I explained the other time, this function is helping us to get our task. But what I'm now saying in this mounted is that this mounted is a lifecycle used in Vue. That is, whenever our page loads, that particular function or anything we write or any JavaScript we write inside this mounted automatically fires. So since whenever I get to my page, I want to get my task. So that's why I'm running this get task function. I'm running it inside this mounted, in which whenever the page loads, it's spin up, go to the server for me, get my data, and display it on our page. So let me quickly try and go to Sheikh Usman. Is the issue solved? So we can wrap up from here. I think this is actually still loading. The issue is yet to be solved. I can't even access the database again. I'm now having 500 issue internet server error. Wow.
Can you Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Walaikum salam.
Like some of us that want to ask questions, maybe you can just take some minutes to just teach us some things regarding some questions that we have.
Okay. So perhaps probably we wait for Sheikh Uthman to get the issue solved for us.
now he said you should try the endpoints now.
I should try it now, right?
Yeah.
Okay, now it's giving me 500 error if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 500 error. Okay, let me try adding task to it. Well, same thing, 500 error. I can't still access it. So just as one of the attendants had said that perhaps if anyone has question from what we've been saying regarding, or from what we've been discussing regarding Vue, all this while. So do we have anybody that have question? Perhaps till we wait if we can still use our endpoint. Do we have anyone that has got a question here?
Yeah, well done. Thank you very much. So someone has a question in the chat box, like how can we conditionally change styling either in class or style tags?
Yeah. Barakallahu fikum. I will quickly show that now because I said something like that, or maybe I will quickly practicalize it or so. So let me come to add task. Let me say task manager. I think I have something relating to that as well, if I'm not mistaken. But if that, or sorry, I'll quickly just show that for us. This is example of what I'm saying. This is like the normal class we have in our tag, in our div tag. But whenever we want to add a condition or a conditional style to our tag, we have to put this word double colon. Normally, as I said, it's supposed to be what v bind, but we have shortcut just what add ordinary words, um, ordinary, what do you call it? Ordinary double colon, and we get something running. So let me say I have text here. Then I have to give it color, and I'll be changing it. So let me say I have class. So this particular class, I might condition it that if I will just change between true and false for us not to waste time. If this particular data that we want to use here is truthy, then do this particular give me this particular style. Let me use text red. Okay, let me use red, then text red 500. If not, give it what text blue, sorry, then 500 as well. So I will try to quickly check. There are okay. If I didn't forget as well, there are different ways of giving our conditional styling as well. After this, we still have another one which we use array, but we might not have opportunity to be teaching us the different method of how we style. So let me just try to reload the page. So we can see for us to see now, we can see that this particular text is in what red color, but because we have this particular truthy state, if I change it to false now, sorry, color one. So if I change this thing to false now, we're supposed to know it's supposed to come and take this particular state. Sorry, this particular class. We can see that what has changed now. So if let's say we're having a real state, let's say if our code works now, or if our data works, we can have seen it real time. If we have our data to be, let me say our to do to be the status is true, or let me say yes, the status is true that is completed. We want to show it to be what red text. But if it is what not completed, we want to see it in what in blue text, so we can just like change our style in here. So I think with this, I've been able to like answer the question. If we can read documentation as well, there are like two different ways again to use different to do data what sorry to do conditional styling in Vue. So I hope I've been able to answer that and practicalize that. So do we have any question again? Now, any other person with question?
So I believe we are done. So for
Yes.
those just joining, so that they can actually see the full scope of the app. So we cannot even reload the previous one you built before. I hope I'm back.
Yeah, you are
Yes.
back.
Yes.
I have a question, please.
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
So
So I was saying
Yeah,
that since we've started the recording while you were showing us the demo of what we wanted to build right from the start. So people that want to learn can get the copy of this session on our YouTube channel to be uploaded soonest. So with this, we really appreciate the effort of our Vue developer. It really made me fall in love with Vue. As I said one day during our call, that Vue was the first framework I tried out after learning HTML, CSS, JavaScript back then, but because of SDD, Sapa driven development, so I had to move to React, and now we're writing React. But at least as someone that knows JavaScript, if you know JavaScript very well, you can juggle between frameworks. It's just to learn the way and how they structure everything. So we can have our use cases for Vue also, even as a React developer, and other framework also like Angular, like Svelte. So it's not to be like to marry your stack like it's actually your wife. It's just to solve a problem. So I believe with this we've come to the end of the session, but I don't know if my bosses
Now,
have
Chef,
one or two
Chef,
things to
I think someone
Okay, what's that?
I think someone has a question. I think
Okay,
someone
let
has
the person ask.
Now, so my question is, assuming we have an utility function, probably a function that is adding two numbers together, and then I imported it into my component. So how do I use it in the template? Like, do I pass it to the data or
Ye- okay.
yeah?
Yeah,
The
Barakallah.
question is like, if you have import an utility function, like how do I use it in the template?
Yes, I heard you completely. Barakallahu fikum. Yeah, you can just do that with your and we have different use case that we might want to bring a data in. Let me say we have just as they said in React, if you have a particular hook that you've created in a particular place and you want to come and use it, so you can just um I don't know if okay, let me quickly say it by mouth, not to take our time. So create it, import it, just like for example, as we imported Axios into this code, import that particular function. But this is how it will work. Whenever you import that particular function, you must come to your code here, your method in that particular component to initiate a new function as well and run that particular function inside it. Then okay, let me quickly practicalize it. Not if I'm using mouth, it might not be possible to explain very well. Okay, let me come to this utils. So let me say I have add. Okay, let me just call it add. Let me call it add view. Okay, sorry. So let's say we have a particular function here. Let's say we have export const, or let me just write const straight, don't waste time. Const, let me say we have add, then we have code here. So let's say you are doing the adding you want to add together, but make sure you do something we call what? You return your code here. Whenever you return it, let me say you return that a plus b that you want to, sorry, a plus b that you might be passing as your what? As your function parameter. So let me say you have this thing now here. So you now come to your, we have this add. You now come to your the particular page you want to use it. You import it. Let's say we are importing something like this again. We import, let me say add. I'm just intentionally importing it from that place. You now come to your code here as well. You now come to your method. Whenever you come to the method, some extent we have different ways of doing this, but this is like the way it's actually worked for me, and I've actually like seen one or two things to back up my stand. You come to your code as well. You have a particular function that says what? Add. Whenever you now add it, or let me say you have your function here as well, you bring this particular function, you bring it inside. It could have your code knows where this thing is coming from, this add is coming from. You use it here. Whenever you use it, you return it rather. You must make sure you return it. Whenever you return it, you now come back to your code base here to use this particular this particular add method here, because your code base, your function here, sorry, your component here cannot actually use this particular add something straight, except you come and return it in this particular function and use it in your code, because your HTML or your template here understand what is in is his own um sibling script, as in this script only. I think you understand me.
نعم نعم جزاكم الله خيرا.
I mean. Do we have anybody that have a question again?
Now, I have a question.
Okay, now.
Now, my question is, since we know that Vue gave us main.js file on its own, cool.
Okay.
So if all our code that we import in that main.js for our router, if it can actually work, so what is the essence of importing it to another router file calling index.js?
Please, can you come back with your can you come with your question
Yeah, I
again?
said in our main.js that Vue gave us.
Okay, just please wait. Let me just come here, then we explain it. We are continuing with your question.
Now, since we can write all the imports that we want to do for our routing here,
Okay,
are you
okay,
hearing me?
yes. Yes, I'm
So
with
if
you.
it
Yes.
can, if it's what is the essence of transporting all our or importing all our code to another file called index.js, then
Yes.
importing it back here? So what is the essence?
Yes, thank you. Barakallahu fikum. Why we usually do that? You can see also that we need to please someone people should like can you off your mic? I can hear myself again. Okay, now thank you. So the basic answer, or let me say general answer for that, is that we want our code to be readable and something. In short, we want our code to be readable, not ordinary router. The router file that we said we are importing from somewhere. You can see many things here. As in, if this code base, this task manager is larger than this, I have many things I want to come and use in my in my what do we call it, in my main.js, because main.js serves as like the entry for our file as well. You understand? Because as I said the other time, this app that we have here, we can see it. That serves as where our code is being bundled and showed in our front end. So yeah, what I'm saying is that this main.js is just like an entry point in our code, in which that is where everything is boiling or going back to. So if we don't make our code readable in terms of anything that we can go and compile in somewhere else and just import it here, it is better for you to do that rather than, if you can see my code base here now, I have store vx store imported in this my down as package in this my in this my Vue app, but I didn't just talk about it. This particular view as well, this particular store as well, I can instantiate it here and do some other many things with it here. If I tend to do that, I write my store here, I write my router here, or let me say all my router function is here. I have many things here. Our code will not be readable. If we have error, we can't see where it is. So in short, the answer is just like make our code neat, readable, and efficient for us to debug whenever it is remaining for us to debug. I think I'm because if you can see now, we have our router, very clear that what we are dealing with here is routing. We are anything else, we don't deal with it. Let's come back to store. I think I have store here. We can see that anything things that we are dealing with here, it is things relating to store. If we now see that we should come and take everything and put the junks here, it won't make sense. So that is why we want to like separate our actions, our functions, and our files different places and deal with them individually. So I think I've been able to answer that. So let me quickly, I may not be answering any question now. I have to quickly go to deployed completely made app before, and we test it again. So this is like the already made app, just like which we've made in this particular session today. So we can see that our backend is back. So let me quickly delete all the tasks that we are having here, and we'll quickly play with it to test our code that we've written. Then we move on. We might be calling the what's called the session to an end. We can see here that when we don't have our task, we have no task added, just as I've said in our code base, where we are having the v if and the v else. So because this one is running in the VS now, because we have where's display task. Okay, no, it's task manager. Quickly come here. So we can see that this is where we have our what no task added. Due to that, in our yet to do task, nothing is there. We can see that that is what part of what Vue gave us, the VIF and VS. Let me say I'm adding task now. Let's say learn Vue JS. We can just make our creating now, which goes to the back end to get our. We can see that what we have our what task successfully created. Then we reload our page to get what our task. So I think we've been able to like fulfill what we said in creating our task. Also, as well, we can let us ask another task. Let's say another ask. Okay. Another task. We can see that our task will be loaded to the page now. We can see that we have our new what we are task here. So we can tick this what our task and put it in our completed task. That is where we have our completed computed property here, which is helping us to extract, to calculate out the task that has been completed and the one that is not completed. So we can see the use cases of this option that Vue gave us. So I think, and also we can also make the delete of our task. And also let's test our what edit function as well. So we can see that I'm automatically injecting this particular learn view. I'm injecting it from what I said in the other time when we are passing our what edit task. I'm passing that data, that is item to edit. I'm passing it inside data, which is on this particular component. I'm now setting it. This is where I'm setting it. I'm sorry, let me quickly go to edit task. If you come to mounted, we can see that I'm quickly setting the data that I'm passing from my props. I'm setting it as the name that we wanted to change. So my form now, since Vue gave me getter and setter, I can just set this form to be what? Learn what? Let me show no more. Learn React. So,
You're not even learning Vue again.
so we can see that what we have what learn React. So, okay, this is a mistake. Let me quickly put the R. So we can see that I'm editing this particular task now, which make our what CRUD action or CRUD implementation to be completed. So with this, I hope we've been able to complete this session fully. I'm sorry, this particular route, I don't want to take time again. I could have, okay, let me quickly do that, please. Sorry, 1 minute. Just like show us what we mean by routing in Vue.js. You see that we have something that we call about page here now. What's the time? People might want to go and do Solar. I think Solar is very important. What this does do is just that, let me just show us here. I have in my header here, we have something we call what router link. Router link helps us take our page to other pages that we want. So in short, this is just what I want to show us. Our router link helps us to like navigate our page to other component that we want to display on our single page. So that is just it. We pray that may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put barakah in what we have done today, and may He make our knowledge a beneficial one. بجاه عظمته وملكوته ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
نعم وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. نعم جزاكم الله خيرا. And we thank everyone as well for coming around. And I think I can hear my voice. I think in one way or the other we've been able to have brother Hussein, can you just mute yourself, please? Yeah, I think in one way or the other we've been able to have an overview of Vue.js and be able to like pick up from where we left the other time to be plug into the Laravel endpoint. And I'm sorry for some of the inconsistencies like from the server. I think we we had an issue with the backend at some point. And inshallah, this particular session is being recorded and will be uploaded to the YouTube channel very, very soon. And we should all anticipate the link. So we thank everybody for joining the call, and as we proceed, we'll be having some um, other calls on some other particular stacks as well. So inshallah will be informing us as we proceed, and keep us updated. So do you have anything to say, sir? Okay, yeah. I believe that's all, inshallah. So once the link for the recorded session is ready, we'll send it out, inshallah. And if you have any question or how to get started with with Vue.js, how to how to move from React or from Angular to Vue.js, how to move from jQuery to Vue.js, you can definitely reach out to him on the WhatsApp group, and we'll be always ready to just respond to any issue or query you have. So with that, we say Jazakumullah khairan for everybody for joining. And with that, we say Subhanakallah Muhammadik Ashara la ilaha illa ant astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.